Good day, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Inquirer Show. This is Marcel Portu. We're recording this broadcast on October 15th, 2020. It's been a while since we did a show, so I'm very excited to finally get back on the horse and give you some good content in the world of sports. As always, if you want to follow everything that we're doing, head to the mothership, thesportsinquirer.net. Premium recycling news and notes in the world of sports. I have a lot to plug on there. We've been doing some great interviews with Georgia College athletics. We've been able to speak with the Georgia State head coaches in volleyball and Sally Pohemus, and men's soccer and Brett Cerency, as well as women's soccer and Ed Joyce. Some excellent player interviews from those respective teams. And we've also been able to speak with Georgia Tech volleyball quite a bit recently with head coach Michele Collier. And we have a really good interview with Mariana Brambilla, the volleyball player from Brazil that we posted earlier this week, where she breaks down some very good information as far as on the field, on the court, and as well as off the court, and dealing with the coronavirus, spending the summer in her native Brazil and having to quarantine in Brazil and in Mexico before even re-entering the United States for this upcoming year. Very intriguing perspective on how everything has been going. So make sure you head to the site to check all of that content out. And also you can go to our social media platforms, starting with Twitter and Instagram. You can go to Sports Inquirer, that's all one word, a quick search, and you'll be able to see all that we're doing. You can also go to Facebook and go to one of our two pages there, either Sports Inquirer or The Sports Inquirer. Do a quick search on there, check out those pages, and that's a great way to keep track of what is going on. And finally, subscribe to our audio options, starting with SoundCloud and YouTube, as well also Spotify, Google Podcast, and iTunes. Do a quick search on there under The Sports Inquirer, and you'll be able to see everything that we are doing there. How's everything going as far as the world of the Inquirer? We're doing okay. I think the biggest thing is that we started a new project, started a new opportunity, and therefore it's limited our recordings of the actual Sports Inquirer show, but we're also has opened up some chances for us to do some more interviews, and the reception for those has gone very well. Thank you for listening and watching those content. I've become a Zoom expert, becoming a Zoom expert. I don't know if you ever become an expert of that platform, but with the pandemic, the downside has obviously been the lack of interaction between myself and different coaches and players going to practices and everything like that. And that's rough because you start building a rapport when you see people and you interact with them. And I also enjoy just watching the game. The lack of games or attending games has been very tough. But I don't necessarily say a positive, but an adjustment that everyone has made and we're all starting to get used to is doing the interviews via Zoom or by Zoom basically, but there's also different audio options. We're getting used to doing these pressers and interviews online, and it's led to, I think, some more availability in a weird way. I think for myself personally, I'll say that a lot of the media availabilities would have been during the day or during the afternoon or even late morning, which is very tough because I do have a full-time job besides the Inquirer, and it's tough to get to those things and have a 9 to 5 just to keep it simple. But with the digital options that we have now in 2020 and been enhanced more with the pandemic, I'm able to do interviews 2 o'clock in the afternoon, like I have some set up today during my lunch hour, to doing interviews at 7 to 8 p.m. I interviewed several players at around that time, because that's when they're done with class or practice or things along those lines, where normally that would not have been more acceptable or more open to people doing that. You just have to roll with the times and find adjustments. But that's just been okay though. Overall, we're still moving and grooving as we always try to, and that transitions us into previewing Week 5 of the NFL season coming up. Actually, week 6. I was going to do a recap, but it turned into a preview. Technically, we do not, because we don't have a Thursday night game today. We're recording this, as I said, on October 15th in the morning, and there's no Thursday night game, so we could go right to the Sunday contest and Monday as well. The first contest I want to discuss is Minnesota hosting Atlanta. The Vikings are a 3.5-point favorite over the Falcons. When you think about the Falcons, obviously made big news earlier this week with the dismissal of head coach Dan Quinn and general manager Thomas Dimitroff. This is a move that really should have been made in the off season. 2 consecutive 7-9 campaigns for that duo after their Super Bowl appearance. We all know about dropping the 28-3 lead in the second half of that contest to New England Patriots. They just didn't recover from it, and they did bounce back the next season, have a 10-win campaign, make the playoffs. They lost at Philadelphia in the first round of the playoffs. So you could say that was a very good job getting back to the postseason. But after that, the past 2 full seasons, so losing records, and just a matter that they would lose. A lot of blown leads, and that's not even including this year. We'll get to this year in a moment. But just a lot of blown leads, a lot of slow starts to seasons. You look at last season, started year 1 and 7, and I think at that point that would have been a good reason for a dismissal. But they turned it around, finished 6-2 to wrap up the year, to end the year 7-9, and the fake positive momentum that they had. You look at the teams they were playing, and they beat a lot of inferior teams to get that record going. But this year it was just I think they should have been dismissed after this past season. But you look at all of the talent on the team. Now, I'm not saying that they're a Super Bowl caliber squad. But when you start the season with all first rounders in your offensive starting lineup, you look at the regression of some of their players, some due to injury and some just to age, but the lack of development of a Takk McKinley, a Keanu Neal, a Deion Jones not consistent enough. You look at that now. They did a very good job with Grady Jarrett, who's turned into a all-pro caliber defensive lineman. That's a very good pick, but that just has not worked out. And you look at all just the different moves. The offensive line is still very questionable after multiple years and multiple first-round picks. You look at that thing going on. Overall, it just was a time for regime change. And this season, the blown lead at Dallas, the blown lead. These are they blew 2 consecutive double-digit leads in the fourth quarter. That had never been done before. That was really the sign that things need to be changed. And then when you have a listless performance at home against Carolina, who's playing without Christian McCaffrey, their best player, maybe the best running back in the entire NFL, you add that up all together, and it's just not good. And I think a very telling sign is, at least here in Atlanta, fans are able to attend the games at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Not full capacity. They're staggering towards having more people attend the contest. But I'll put it this way: when I think there may be 10,000 seats available, and you only have, I saw the number, I think it was on 7,000 or 8,000. You can't even get a full sellout by these standards. That's not a good sign, and there's major apathy with the franchise. And I've always said, when you blow the leads this year, and every time you look at Dan Quinn and looked at the Dimitroff, you thought about that Super Bowl and that loss, and maybe the biggest blown loss in professional sports history, at least in the United States. It's on the short list. There have been maybe some bigger losses points. I don't even think there's bigger points wise, but it's a Super Bowl. Everyone saw it. The malaise of the franchise led to the dismissal of Dan Quinn. What do the Falcons do now? They move on. Raheem Morris is was the interim head coach. Previously was the defensive coordinator. We'll see what happens there. It's probably going to be not good times for the Falcons for the rest of the season. A lot of jobs are on the line in the front office and on the field. The Matt Ryan thing, I don't think he'll be dismissed after this year. You just look at the numbers. But after next season, the way to cut him or to release him or trade, whatever the desire is, it's going to be a little bit easier to do. So that's where you're looking at a situation where it's going to be time for some major changes with that franchise. What happens this week as far as the Vikings go, I think you see a motivated Falcons squad. Will Julio Jones availability, we don't know with that. But I think if you're going to pick a game, you probably have to go with the Vikings to win that contest. Another major contest or major news from this past week is Dak Prescott's injury. I watched it live. I'm sure many of you did. It was the late game on CBS. It was National Game of the Week. We saw when Prescott ran out of the pocket and was tackled, and you saw his ankle. You knew that wasn't good. His right ankle, you knew it was broken immediately, and then it was dislocated as well. Just a devastating loss for him and for the team. You look at Prescott, we all know the contract situation. He's playing under the franchise tag, does not have a long-term deal, meaning that this was really his make or break year. Yes, he was franchised, making $30+ million guaranteed, but what happens for him towards the future? You seem like the Cowboys were not willing to give him that long-term deal, or he was unwilling to accept the long-term deal as well. They just could not come to it. We've heard the numbers from $35 million to $40 million, whatever the range is. The point is that's altered in a major way due to that injury. And if you know his backstory as well, he's dealt with a lot of trauma in his off the field. I'm not putting his business out there. You know of his mother's passing, cancer, and other things along those lines. Him being a late round pick, having to work his way into the starting lineup. You don't hear much negativity about him. He seems like a well-liked guy with the Cowboys and throughout the league. So seeing that traumatic injury was very tough. Now, we'll finish off with the Dak thoughts, and then we'll get to the current state of the Cowboys. If it looked like he had a good surgery and not many complications. The thing with Alex Smith, and we may talk about that a little bit later on, when he broke his leg with the Washington franchise a few years ago, the infections really messed up his recovery. And he saw the ESPN special and his leg and all the trauma he dealt with that. He found his way back onto the court, which was awesome. But I don't think Dak had those complications. I think it was a cleaner break. If you're going to have a break like that, it's very bad, but I think all things considered, wasn't too bad. He'll be back next season to play. Will it be with the Dallas Cowboys? I think it actually will be. I think they'll find a way. I don't know if they franchise him again, but I just look at the landscape of the NFL. A lot of teams are either going with the guys they currently have on their roster, or they're going to draft Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence, or there's always another quarterback that sneaks their way into the first round. I think teams are going to draft those guys and try to develop them instead of taking Prescott. I think Prescott is not going to have too many places to go besides Dallas, and Dallas is not going to have too many options, besides going with Prescott. So I think it's a marriage that's a marriage of convenience. I think is what they're going to end up having happen. The numbers, if it's 30 million, 40 million, I don't know the specifics of that. We'll see what happens there. As far as the Cowboys currently now, they are going to host the Arizona Cardinals this upcoming this upcoming Sunday. Andy Dalton is their backup, and we know Dalton. He's played many years with the Cincinnati Bengals, led him to a few playoff appearances. He's a competent backup, and he was able to lead the Cowboys to a win this past Sunday over the New York Giants. Are you going to see the Cowboys be a Super Bowl contender? I don't think so. I don't think you're going to see that beforehand with Prescott's injury. He was having a career year statistically, but overall, I didn't see the Cowboys making much of a run in the postseason. Can they win the division? Well, you look at the NFC East, and it's really become the least. It's a silly pun, but it's true. Giants are in major rebuild mode. They are not going to go anywhere. You look at the Washington franchise, they're down to their third quarterback. We saw Alex Smith playing, and as great as Alex Smith, the story is, he's not going to be the answer in that position. Dwayne Haskins already demoted to third string. Kyle Allen injured. He's trying to work his way back into the lineup at quarterback. Washington, while the defensive line has shown moments, the rest of that team is not much inspiration. And then the Eagles, you have to look at Carson Wentz and what is going on with that franchise and what their struggles are. They just cannot put together a consistent run of play. Too many turnovers from Wentz. The defense has been showing signs of leakage. Just not a good deal overall in the East. You add that up all together, the Cowboys can still find a way to come up with a victory or win the division. It might be a 7-win division, but that's we win a division, you get a playoff game, and not only do you get a playoff game, you get to host it. So that's something that the Cowboys can try to look forward to. Will they do it against Arizona? Kyler Murray's putting up some very good numbers, had a career-high 380 yards and a touchdown in their win against the Jets last week. He also has 5 rushing TDs so far this year, and he joins Terry Bradshaw, Cam Newton, and Cordell Stewart as the only guys through the first 5 games of the season with 5 rushing TDs. So we already know what he's doing in that regard. Nuke Hopkins, 6 catches, 131 yards in that win over the Jets. He's now the 4th youngest player to reach 9,000 career rushing yards in NFL history. Only other guys to do that are all Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers: Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald. So he's in very, very good company in that regard. I think the Cowboys would be a very lively team against Arizona. I just saw the scroll right now while recording this show that Chandler Jones, the all-pro defensive lineman for the Arizona Cardinals, he's out for the year with injury. That's a major blow for a defense that isn't the best already. So I think the Cowboys can find a way to win this game and make things interesting in the NFC East as we move along. Pittsburgh is a 3.5-point favorite at home over Cleveland. Chase Claypool, the rookie receiver from Canada, very big performance for Pittsburgh last week. 7 receptions, 110 yards, 3 TDs, and catching, and also had a rushing TD in the Steelers' 38-29 win over the Philadelphia Eagles. We've broken down the Eagles and their struggles, but Pittsburgh 4-0 for the first time since 1979. Really surprising stat. We've seen the Steelers are a marquee franchise from 70s to Steel Curtain and all that stuff. Jerry Bradshaw, just mentioned him in our stat earlier, with Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin as far as head coaches. Chuck Noll obviously from the 70s and 80s. We've seen all the success the Steelers have had over the years. And first time 4-0 since 1979. I thought that was a very surprising statistics. But back to Claypool, 3rd rookie receiver to have 4 TDs in a game. The only other guys to do that, Jerry Butler and Harlan Hall, back in 1979 and 1954 respectively. If you bet me $20, I can name those guys if I give me 1,000 chances. No disrespect to those guys, but that's just a unique statistic. He also 4th rookie with at least 2 receiving TDs and a rushing TD in a game since Lynn Kane and Kareem Hunt. So he's put up some tremendous numbers for a rookie. And Pittsburgh's defense has been very strong this year. Had 5 sacks and 2 interceptions in that aforementioned win over the Philadelphia Eagles. 4th team since 2000 to reach that mark. And only other teams to do that are the Bears 2 years ago, the Broncos in 2016, and the 2009 Broncos as well. So you add all that together, the Steelers are playing at a very high level, but they also face a Cleveland team that's 3-1 And you see the re-emergence of Odell Beckham. He had 5 receptions, 58 yards in the win over Indianapolis last week. So he's a third. He has third most yards, receiving yards, our player through the first 80 games in NFL history. Lance Allworth and Julio Jones are the only other guys to have that much. Actually, and Torrey Holt as well. So right now you're starting to see him get the ball a lot more. The 2 weeks ago at Dallas, he had a reverse touchdown on a reverse run. So in essence, they're just putting the ball in his hands and finding a way to do that. And that's been very, very important for the Cleveland franchise. You look at Sam Bradford, not Sam Bradford, goodness, I'm going back years with that one. You go to Baker Mayfield, and you look at what he is doing. Lack of turnovers has been very good for him. They've been more consistent in that regard. So that has been very, very important for the Cleveland team to find their way to do it. If they can win this game, I think that may be the NFC West is the toughest division, top to bottom. I think Arizona may be due for a little bit of a drop here. But when you can have Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cleveland, and Cincinnati is still trying to find their way with Joe Burrow. But when you put together those three teams, those are three playoff caliber teams. Not many divisions can make that statement. We talked about how bad the NFC East is. You put either one of those teams in that division, they could be a 12-13 win team. Just look at the numbers. But I think this is a game where both teams are going to come out and play very well. But ultimately, Pittsburgh, with that defensive unit, is going to find a way to earn a victory in that contest. Green Bay is host. No, they actually go to Tampa this week. But the Packers are a 2.5-point favorite on the road against Tampa. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, that two marquee names, two future Hall of Famers, two maybe best quarterbacks of this generation are playing in this contest. So that's the marquee that you look at. But you also have to look at the other side of things. I look at the defensive end. I think Green Bay has shown solid form on defense. We know Aaron Rodgers, what he's going to do and how he's going to perform. He under Matt LaFleur in year 2 under offense, showing a lot more comfort and doing what he does. But you look at the defense, and the Packers have brought a solid unit there. Tampa, now they are dealing with, and it's interesting seeing Tom Brady playing with, we see him in another franchise, another uniform, another in the NFC, all those different things. What I think he's glad he made the move to Tampa. You know, he seems like a guy that you make a decision, you accept it, and you move on, and you don't look back too much. But I think one thing that he does miss in New England is the lack of discipline. We see the struggles of Tampa, most penalized team in the league last year. I don't know if they're on pace to do that this year. I don't have the statistic, but you're still seeing a lot of those same mistakes. False starts, dropped balls, procedure penalties, just things that with New England, the one thing you know about a Bill Belichick coach team, they may lose a contest, but they're not going to beat themselves that much. And you're starting to see Tampa put themselves in not very good positions in that regard. I think this ultimately leads to Green Bay earning the road win at Tampa for those aforementioned reasons. So I think that the Packers find a way to win that contest. Carolina is a 2.5-point favorite at home against Chicago Bears. I look at the Bears and I'm wondering, can they keep this up? I know that I was about to mention they have Kyle Orton. I'm mentioning some really old quarterbacks from a few years ago. First Sam Bradford and now Kyle Orton. No, but Nick Foles is their starting quarterback right now. And I look at that team and I think they're kind of doing the smoke and mirrors, finding a way to win these contests. Carolina kind of the same way. As I mentioned, no Christian McCaffrey, but you're starting to see some guys emerge from there, some good running backs and receivers finally getting a time to shine. And Teddy Bridgewater is a consistent presence at quarterback. He's not going to throw for 400 yards. He's not going to rush for 150. He's not going to throw for 5 TDs, but he is a steadying presence back there, and I think that will be a factor in the win over the Bears. Why do I have the Giants and the Washington team in my rundown? That's a mistake. I don't. Why I want to. All right. Well, it's an NFL game. I have Indy and Cincinnati on here as well. I was trying to do some more of the marquee games first, but hey, it's an NFL game. I'll talk about it. I think the Giants have shown a little bit of life. Now, Shaquan Barkley being out for the year with the knee injury, that's really, really rough for them. But we saw some spunk from them in the past few weeks. At the Rams 2 weeks ago, losing by one possession. And they were very much in that contest at Dallas last week. Now, we mentioned that they lost Dak Prescott during that contest. That you can say was a factor. But the Giants are playing hard. They're playing physical. It's just not there for them. I think Daniel Jones, he's very inconsistent at quarterback. A lot of turnovers, which is what you can't do in the league. But they're playing hard. They're giving effort for new head coach Judge. But I just don't see the talent there. Washington, I mentioned their quarterback situation a little bit earlier. I guess I'll take the home team. The Giants get to play on their home field against most likely a backup quarterback. Well, I guess Kyle Allen is technically the starter, and I think he'll be back, under center, but we'll see what happens there. I'll just take the Giants, the home team. Indianapolis, 8-point favorite at home against the Bengals. I guess I'll take the I'll take the Colts, and that's a lot of points though. But I think I'll take Indy to win that contest. Baltimore, here's a better matchup. Baltimore is a 7.5-point favorite against Philadelphia. The Eagles, I think, are in a very bad spot right now. They just cannot find that consistent play. Baltimore, I think very quietly, is having a good season. I think what's happened with Baltimore, we're taking Lamar Jackson for granted as well. He's still putting up some very good numbers. Obviously, MVP from last year. But I think the storylines have been very interesting, from the Browns finding their way back into strong form. We're keeping an eye on New England because of the Cam Newton. Kansas City's going to get a lot of attention. They're the defending champions, of course. And in the NFC, there are a lot of storylines there as well. Baltimore is a team that is quietly putting together a very good season. They could still win the division, be a strong contender in the playoffs. But as I've mentioned on earlier shows, and I'll mention it again here, when it comes to the Ravens, it's all about the postseason for them. They're really playing for January. We've seen them have good regular seasons. We've seen Lamar Jackson, as I put up, MVP caliber seasons, or regular seasons. But it comes down to the playoffs. 2 years ago, they lost, at home to the Chargers in the postseason. Last year, a very bad loss to it was last year in the postseason to Tennessee. They lost at home to Tennessee after having the best record in the AFC last year. So two consecutive years of home playoff losses. That's not a good deal. And so a lot of that doesn't matter. It matters because you got to be in the postseason to get back to the playoffs. Well, we're all going to look for Baltimore. What's going to happen when the playoffs start? What are they going to do? So that's kind of where the mode that we're in, or the mode that we're looking at. I think as far as this week, they should be able to take care of the Eagles pretty easily. The Rams are 3.5-point favorite on the road against San Francisco. We saw last week Aaron Donald, first career game with 4 sacks. Troy Reeder had 3 sacks as well for the Rams defensive line. They're cooking right now. They face a San Francisco team that's trying to find their consistent footing, trying to shake off that Super Bowl hangover. I think the Rams continue to roll and find a way to get a win in that contest. All right, let's transition to the technical state of Georgia athletics and discuss some Georgia football. Let's start with the Panthers. They came off of a very impressive home win over East Carolina in their last contest for their first victory of the 2020 campaign. And now they're going to go on the road against Arkansas State tonight on October 15th. Let's hear from Coach Elliott, Shawn Elliott, head coach of the Panthers, on the first road contest of the season for Georgia State.
No, I mean, you got to make suit with the contact tracing and things of that nature. So, we'll do those necessary requirements, but we'll continue to do the things we do on our Friday nights, and that's, getting together and watch a movie. We typically give them a couple options so they can spread out and social distance in those movies on Friday night, and then we'll send them back to their rooms and make sure they're good to go for the game. But nothing in particular. We'll stay the course, but protect ourselves.
And now with Shawn Elliott discussing the team's first road contest and protocols and procedures that they're going to have. And one good thing that the Panthers have is the play of redshirt freshman quarterback Cornelius Quad Brown. He threw a pick six to open the contest against East Carolina, but bounced back and helped the team score 35 first half points en route to the victory. I spoke with Coach Elliott about the play of Quad Brown and his maturation through his freshman campaign.
Give Quad Brown a lot of time to think about that interception. I think we came back and we took the offense down very, very quickly, just not to let him kind of think about that play. I think it says a lot about a young man that can throw a pick six on the first play of the game and then come right back and lead a touchdown drive. I mean, you just don't see a lot of that, and especially in young players. They might go over and hang their head and blame this and blame that, but I think he is a gifted, talented quarterback, and he has got a great personality and a great mindset to be a really, really good quarterback. And that was evident in throwing that interception and coming back to lead our football team or lead us offensively.
And now it's Coach Elliott discussing Quad Brown. And the Panthers face an Arkansas State team that's coming off of a home win over Central Arkansas. Here is head coach of the Wolves, Blake Anderson, discussing Georgia State.
Georgia State is a good football team. Took Lafayette into overtime, beat the mess out of ECU, and beat us last year. So a tremendous amount of respect. We've got to play better than we did Saturday. Although I am pleased with the improvement and pleased with the win, we still have better ball ahead of us, and that is a challenge this week. And everybody will get to see it Thursday night at home on ESPN, and that's really what these kids grow up dreaming about. So this is an opportunity for them, and we need to win a conference game and get back in the mix in the Sun Belt Conference.
And here are further thoughts from Coach Anderson about facing the Panthers tonight.
Weeks in general are tough. I love the fact that we're not having to travel. We really haven't had many short week opportunities at home. Most of them have been on the road, and that just presents another challenge. But just getting your bodies back. You play a physical game on Saturday and turn around on Thursday. A lot of times that is guys are still challenged with getting the soreness out and just the bumps and bruises. Their offense is really balanced. Gives you a lot of different looks, and you have to defend the whole field, so that creates a challenge. And then being able to block their front and how much movement you're going to see. Those are things that even on a normal week would give you issues, but in a short week, that is just kind of intensified. So we've got to do a great job of simplifying, making sure we don't beat ourselves, making sure we know what to do, so that we have the best chance to compete, and have our best team on the field on Thursday night.
And those were Blake Anderson's thoughts on facing Georgia State tonight. We'll have plenty to discuss of that contest after it takes place. Georgia Tech has a very big contest this week against the Clemson Tigers. But before we get to that, let's discuss their very impressive home win over Louisville last Friday. We're starting to see the maturation of Jeff Sims, another freshman quarterback in the state of Georgia. He has been very, very good for the Yellow Jackets. And you're starting to see with Georgia Tech, when you have a freshman quarterback and you have those studs at running back, the underclassmen, we're going to run the ball, try to control the clock, and then look out to break out with the explosive plays. So we're starting to see all of that happen. Here is head coach Geoff Collins of Georgia Tech discussing the team handling success. And that was Coach Collins discussing the Yellow Jackets handling success, and obviously they're facing Clemson. We all know about the Tigers. maybe the marquee franchise or team college football program currently going today. Trevor Lawrence, Heisman candidate. Travis Etienne, our favorite player in college football for obvious reasons. We like his last name because he shares my first name. But no, Travis is a very good player, and the Tigers are in peak position right now to make another national championship run. It's always intriguing watching this contest because it is a border war. A lot of guys from Clemson recruits Georgia very, very heavily, as like Trevor Lawrence, a Cartersville legend. He grew up about 20 miles from where we record our show, literally. So Trevor Lawrence is very known in the state of Georgia, but they recruit the state very, very hard. And Georgia Tech obviously recruits Georgia hard, and South Carolina as well. So there's a lot of crossover. These teams have played each other for many, many years. But Clemson's a team right now, as I said, with Dabo Swinney. They are them in Alabama, Ohio State as well, become the marquee franchises over the past 10 years or so in college football. So there is a familiarity, but also Georgia Tech wants to get to Clemson's level. And to do that, you have to beat them and compete with them. And here is Coach Collins discussing facing the Tigers and what this means for the program. And that was Coach Collins discussing facing Clemson. Obviously, on paper, very tough contest. But I think having the Tigers playing in Atlanta, I think there'll be a decent crowd there for both teams. Clemson always travels. And that's another thing. Clemson has a lot of alums in Atlanta. Well, a lot of schools have a lot of alums in Atlanta, but they always show out and a lot for that contest, and it should be very intriguing. I think Clemson's going to win the contest if you want my prognostication or my thoughts on it. But I think Georgia Tech, as I said, with the play of Sims at quarterback and the confidence that Georgia Tech has, I think they can make it interesting. I just think that the offense of Clemson is going to be very, very tough to stop. And I don't know if Georgia Tech can match them as far as points go. But I think it should be a very intriguing contest. On paper, the game of the week, if it happens, is Georgia at Alabama. The word out of Alabama is Nick Saban has contracted the coronavirus. He will not be available for the contest against Georgia, but now you have to worry about the players. Obviously, Coach Saban is coach the players and the staff. What's the outbreak potential with the Alabama team? We don't know that as we record this show on October 15th. It's a major factor who's available, who isn't. Not having Coach Saban there is very tough, and obviously he's the top name in college football. So I'm going to say the best coach in college football history. So this is a really marquee moment in the handling of the coronavirus from college football perspective, but really from college sports in general. I'm literally watching ESPN right now, the replay of Coastal Carolina, Arkansas State, and it's a Nick Saban commercial on for Aflac. You can't make this synergy up. So the man is the most, Saban, he's just the most known guy as far as coach in the sport. And so obviously you hope he's healthy. That's the biggest and most important thing as far as him as a human being, as a man. He's a senior citizen, so there's always the factors that we all have senior citizens in our lives, or anybody that matter, that have health issues. I don't know his health history, but still, if you're older, you gotta worry about the coronavirus. We all should worry about it, but you know what I'm saying as far as the increased risk of things. So as a human being, hope he's well and all of that stuff. How does that impact on the field, or on what's going on? We'll see. I guess Steve Sarkisian would be the interim coach or the man for the job. We've seen Alabama struggle defensively, especially last week against Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss does have some good offensive players, and Lane Kiffin is an excellent offensive coach. But even Saban talking about the Ole Miss having the signals, and that was a problem, or that could have caused us some issues. You would never hear Nick Saban use, and it's an excuse, I'm going to say that, use that excuse as far as they had our signals, that's why they were able to score a lot of points. That was very rare to hear him say that. The reality is their defense is just not very good. I don't know if Georgia's offense can take advantage of that bad defense, but I think down the line that's really going to hurt them. The thing about Georgia, you see them, they like to run the ball, some play action, things along those lines. Maybe that's a way that they can move the ball against a team in that way. But offensively, you look at Alabama. I think Jones has done a good job at quarterback. He has a lot of studs to throw to. But Georgia's defense has been very stout this year. That's the one thing you can say about Georgia. We look at LSU, we look at Alabama, and defense has been optional for those teams, where traditionally those have been strengths for them. But Georgia, their defense has brought it this year so far and kept it going. Now they faced Arkansas and Tennessee as far as SEC play. Not exactly some great offenses, but you play who's on your schedule, and they have been rolling in that regard. So overall, if this contest takes place, I'll take Alabama to find a way to win it. But if Georgia goes in there and wins, it would not surprise me at all. And moving on to other things as well, you also have the Florida and LSU game not taking place this week. And I'll say this also as well, not to get political, and it's not political, but just the perspective of things. Dan Mullen saying that he wanted to have 90,000 fans in a sellout for the Alabama game, or for the game against LSU that they were hosting or were going to host. Just bad perspective on things. Look, we all want to have packed stadiums. We all want to go back to living our lives to how we did this time last year, as far as lack of social distancing and doing some other things. But have some perspective. You're in the state of Florida, which has been hit every state's been hit hard at this stage. But Florida's been going through it very much so with the coronavirus. And I know he wants to have the fans, we all want the fans there, but for him to make that statement, to have that perspective, I thought was very questionable as far as how things are going overall. But the game's not happening. Hopefully things work out for those teams in that situation. But I just wanted to say that real quickly. And just to wrap up our technical state of Georgia athletics, make sure you head to the site. As I mentioned, we have all the interviews with Georgia State and Georgia Tech personnel, and make sure you give it a look there to see everything that's going on. All right, let's transition to the free kick portion of our show and discuss some MLS soccer. Atlanta United was able to draw on Wednesday night at Miami FC 1-1. Jack Mulroney scored a dramatic goal in the 83rd minute off of a nice pass from who made that pass? But anyway, it was a 1-1 draw for Atlanta, able to stay above the playoff line and keep themselves in the postseason running. Here is manager Stephen Glass discussing that victory.
Yeah, I think it was really important that we bounced back the way we did. I'd agree with it. I think we were probably off of what quality-wise, we were off of our normal game tonight. Lost the goal, and then I think you saw a little bit of spirit there. You saw some quality towards the end that was a little bit lacking before that. But we're delighted to get the point, delighted with the spirit of the group, and then we're able to take it into Toronto at the weekend. I think any time you lose a goal that late, you're happy with a point. We didn't come in hoping for a point, but I think our performance on the night, and then them scoring quite late and us managing to come back, I think we sit here after the game, we're delighted to come out here with a point tonight. So it definitely carries us forward to the end of the season, and I do think as well, obviously we get the one, the importance of them not getting three is just as important. So again, the spirit of the group seen us over the line at the end, if you like.
And now Stephen Glass discussing the Miami draw. It kept them above the playoff line, and with 5 matches remaining, they will play Toronto this upcoming Sunday. So we'll keep track of that and everything that's going on. And finally, the miscellaneous department, just some quick hitters. Look, Atlanta, the Braves losing 15-3 against the Dodgers yesterday. I was actually working doing a remote in Kennesaw, a remote radio show or internet show. Well, it's a radio show. It's our podcast. Not this podcast, another podcast. But anyway, we were watching the contest and down 11-0 in the first inning. That's not a good sign. Kyle Wright, our fellow Vanderbilt Commodore, that's our boy, Not the best night for Kyle in that contest. Didn't make it out of the first inning. Thing about this though is the Dodgers are still down 2-1. Atlanta still holds the lead in the series. They play tonight. I guess Clayton Kershaw is going to try to give it a go. He was supposed to start earlier in the series, but has some back spasms. We'll see what happens there. I think the other series, Houston was able to stay alive and get a win over the Tampa Rays, but they're down 3-1 in the series. The Astros are. When you add all that together, you're most likely going to see the Tampa Rays in the World Series. We'll see what happens there. NBA, the Lakers won the championship. We haven't done a show since the Lakers won the NBA championship. That's very surprising. What more can you say about it? I mean, LeBron James, 4 NBA championships, 3 different teams. I don't get into the whole greatest of all time argument between him and Jordan and all of the other legends of the game. I say enjoy the moment that we're seeing right now with James. Now I understand sports talk, media, and on TV, radio. Hey, you listen to a podcast right now of a sports guy. We need topics to talk about. And the LeBron James debate is a fun and easy one to always go to. But take a moment and just appreciate the man in his 17th season, producing at this level. And yes, he has Anthony Davis to help him. And yes, this was a unique circumstance with the bubble as far as the quarantine of playing this championship. I don't know if it's the toughest championship ever in his career, which I've heard him say. I think the Cleveland one was tougher. You just look at trying to build that franchise up again, plus playing the Golden State Warriors, who were the 73-win team that year, best regular season record in history, being down in that series 3-1, coming back, winning Game 7 on the road. I think that was a tougher series, but I don't walk his shoes or walk in his shoes. You can't walk shoes. I don't live his life, so it just may be tough for him as far as being away from his friends and family and all the other stuff. I don't think and I'll say this as well. Look, the quarantine, and respect to the coaches and the players, the referees, even the media as well, for them playing and under those conditions and finding a way to finish the season. But we're acting like they serve jail time. I'm seeing these media members. I'm not going to call out names. And it was one media member. She was saying 100 days in the bubble and covering the game and acting like that was a major accomplishment. I'm sure she has friends and family in her life outside of it, and she's not the only one. But I'm pointing her out because that was the one I saw. I saw multiple other ones, and I'm seeing congratulations. Tough. You're a tough customer. You're doing your best. Listen, that media member, she was on a major network every single day. This is great for her. And I said, I don't know her personal life. I don't know what she left behind in outside of Orlando. And I don't want to come back later and say that she's doing X, Y, and Z. How can you say that? From the outside of things, if you gave me the chance to be on a national network every single day covering the NBA with the access that I would have to the players and coaches, because they can't go anywhere. It's not like they can go back to their homes. You put that together, you will see my behind on the first flight, bus, train, and automobile down to Orlando. You see my mug there every single day. You know how major coverage that is for me professionally? That for me, a struggling sports journalist trying to find his way, and you put me on a national network every single day, then allow me the chance to be on there and be the major source for everything that's going on. Man, please. You can find me there so quickly. And now, granted, I'm single. I don't have any children. My family life is very stable. Health-wise, I'm very good. I have healthy family members for the most part. So my situation may be a little bit different than her and some other people that I've seen out there as far as health issues and dealing with the coronavirus. I haven't dealt with any fatality. Oh, I know people who have peripherally who have passed, and I have friends who obviously have dealt with people who have passed. I'm in a very good spot personally to make these statements. I'll give you that. But man, to hear the talk of people that they act like they did some time in San Quentin, or they just did a stint in Alcatraz. fall back. Or they did it sometime in Rikers Island. I'll make it East Coast for more relevance. Calm down with all that stuff. And the players, as I said, they were for circumstances, and relatively speaking, I think they're in a good spot. And I think also the quarantine wasn't the worst thing in the world. As far as that goes, they didn't have to travel. They were able to rest their bodies and able to do. There was some. You could spin it in a good way. Now you rather play in front of your home fans and be able to sleep in your own bed. I'll give you that. But the talk of people were just like, these guys survived the struggle and they were able to fight the adversity and find a way to get through it. Yes, they dealt with some tough times, but let's keep it in perspective of everything that is going on. And that's concluded today's show. Thanks for listening to our broadcast. As always, keep up with us on sportsinquirer.net. And then finally, go to us on Twitter and Instagram under the Sports Inquirer. That's all one word. And then Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, all of those sites and media platforms. Just search Sports Inquirer. We pop up, and you'll be able to keep up with all the stuff that we're doing. Until next time, good fight, good night, be safe.